Welcome to the data overview for the 8th grade English Language Arts PLC at McCluer Middle School. Hi, I'm Crystal Gels, and I will be leading you through this data presentation. The purpose of this presentation is to review demographic changes at McCluer Middle School over the last several years, review student achievement changes in 8th grade English Language Arts on the Georgia milestones comparing McCluer's scores to the district and state, and to identify strengths and weaknesses in our ELA instruction. As we go through this presentation and we review the data for English Language Arts, here are a few questions to consider. What are the current strengths for 8th grade English Language Arts instruction? What are some opportunities for improvement in regards to English Language Arts instruction? Are there any adjustments or changes that teachers can make to increase instructional opportunities? Are there any groups of students that are not exceeding an ELA? And what can ELA teachers do to help students move up a proficiency level on the Georgia Milestones assessment? The first piece of information that I want to share with you is the College and Career Ready Index scores for McCluer Middle School compared to state and district scores over the past 4 years. As you can see, the CCRPI score for McCluer Middle School has been consistently higher than the scores for both Cobb County and the state of Georgia. The CCRPI score for McCluer dipped from a 90.7 in 2018 to 88.1 in 2019. According to the CCRPI report, this is due in part to the English Language Arts indicator. Student enrollment at McCluer has decreased over the last 4 years. For the 2015-16 school year, the total enrollment was 1,203. In 2016-17, we had 1,240 students, with 1,227 the following school year. For the 2018-19 school year, the total enrollment was 1,117 students. When we look at enrollment by gender, the percentage of male and female students remains equal over the 4 years at around 50%. Next, let's look at enrollment by race and ethnicity. This graph shows the number of students in each race ethnicity subgroup. The number of white students has decreased over the 4-year period from 796 in 2015 to 667 in 2018, while the number of Hispanic and multiracial students has increased. The Hispanic population has grown from 121 students in 2015 to 163 students in 2018, and the multiracial population has gone from 46 in 2016 to 57 in 2018. The percentage of white students has decreased from 66% of the population in 2015 to 59.7% of the population in 2018. The percentage of Hispanic students has increased from 10% in 2015 to 15% in 2018. Also, the percentage of multiracial students has grown slightly from 3.8% in 2015 to 5.1% in 2018. The African American student population grew to 18% in 2016 and 17 school years, but decreased to 16% of the total student population in 2018. There are not many English language learners at McCluer Middle School. We currently have 14 students split among 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Only 2 of the ELL students are in 8th grade. There are additional students who are being monitored, not included in these figures. Another subgroup of our population is students with disabilities. These students are served with an IEP or other special education services. While the number of students with disabilities has grown over the last 4 years from 153 students in 2015 to 200 students in 2016, 207 students in 2017, and 212 students in 2018, the percentage of students being served with an individualized education plan or receiving other special education services remains constant at 17% over the last 3 years. Attendance has been an issue at our school over the last several years. We have started rewarding students with perfect attendance each month. On a positive note, the percentage of students with 5 or fewer absences has increased from 64.9% in 2015 to 73% in 2018. The percentage of students who miss 6 to 15 days of school decreased from 29.2% in 2015 to 19% in 2018. However, the percentage of students missing more than 15 days has increased from 5.9% in 2015 to 8% in 2018. In 2016, one of the counselors began tracking attendance closely and offering incentives to students. There was also increased attention to truancy intervention panels with the school social worker. When we look at attendance for students without disabilities, we see the percentage of students missing 5 or fewer days of school has increased from 66.4% during the 2015-16 school year to 74% in the 2018-19 school year. The percentage of students without disabilities missing 6 to 15 days of school has also decreased. However, the percentage of students missing more than 15 days has increased from 5.2% of students with disabilities without disabilities to 7% in the 2018-19 school year. For students with disabilities, we see similar results for students missing 15 or fewer days of school over the last 4 years. However, the percentage of students with disabilities missing 15 or more days of school has varied from a low of 6.1% 2 years ago to 17% of the students 3 years ago. Last year, 9% of the students with disabilities were absent 15 or more days during the school year. I only have data available for the current school year in regards to teachers at McCluer Middle School. Although this is only current year data, as a member of the faculty for 14 years, the demographics have not changed much except for a reduction in force in 2009. We have slowly gained back teacher allotments over the years. We currently have 73 teachers and administrators. 81% of the teachers are female, while 19% are male. Of the teachers at McCluer, 88% of the faculty are white and 12% is African American. These two data points are not representative of our student population. In regards to education and years experience, 48% of teachers hold a bachelor's degree, while 52% have advanced degrees. 42% of those advanced degrees are master's degrees, while 10% of our teachers have specialist degrees. Over half of the staff has more than 10 years of teaching experience. There are 10 teachers with less than 5 years experience, 10 teachers with 6 to 10 years experience, 24 teachers with 11 to 15 years of teaching experience, and 29 teachers who have 16 or more years of teaching experience. Let's turn our focus to 8th grade English Language Arts. As we look at the 2015-16 scores, we see that McCluer performs higher than both the district and state. We have fewer students at the beginning and developing learner levels than both the state and district. When we look at the proficient category, we have fewer students, 39.9%, than the state at 44.2%. However, if we take into consideration the advanced learners, 25.9% of our students were level 4, as compared to 13.3% of the state and 13.1% for Cobb County. 65.8% of students at McCluer achieve proficiency levels 3 and 4, as compared to 50% of 8th grade students around the state. In 2016-17, McCluer continued to have fewer learners in beginning and developing learner levels. However, the percentage of proficient learners rose to 45.2%, while the percentage of advanced learners fell to 15.1%. In 2017-18, only 4% of McCluer's 8th grade ELA students scored level 1. The percentage of developing learners decreased from the previous school year from 31.4% to 23.4% in 2017-18, moving students into the proficient and advanced learner categories. For the 2018-19 school year, there was a slight increase in the beginning learning category from the previous school year, but McCluer still had fewer students than the county and state scores. The percentage of developing learners remained almost constant from the previous school year, while the percentage of advanced learners dropped from 22.9% in 2017-18 to 20% in 2018-19. So to summarize the milestone data for all 8th grade English Language Arts students, we can see that students are moving from levels 1 and 2, beginning and developing learners, to levels 3 and 4, proficient and advanced learners. When we break down the 8th grade ELA milestones data to students with disabilities and students without disabilities, we can clearly see that students without disabilities outperform students with disabilities. Generally, we see more students performing at the beginning and developing learner levels than at the proficient and distinguished learner levels. In 2015-16, 35.7% of students with disabilities scored as beginning learners compared to only 2% of students without disabilities. 50% of students with disabilities were developing learners compared to 23.7% of students without disabilities. There were no students with disabilities who achieved a level 4 proficiency compared to 30.1% of students without disabilities. In 2016-17, 83.4% of students with disabilities scored in the beginning and developing learner levels compared to 32% of students without disabilities. No students with disabilities scored in the level 4 advanced category. In the 2017-18 school year, the percentage of students with disabilities scored at the beginning and developing learner levels decreased by 10.6%, and we saw 4.3% of students with disabilities score in the level 4 advanced learner category. For the 2018-19 school year, the percentage of students with disabilities scoring at the beginning and developing learner levels remained almost the same. There were no students who scored in the advanced level. 55% of students without disabilities fell into the proficient learner category compared to only 27.6% of students with disabilities. As we compare scores over a 3-year period, we generally see more students with disabilities performing at the beginning and developing learner levels than at the proficient and distinguished learner levels. When looking at the demographics and 8th grade English language arts data, we can see many strengths. McClure's CCRPI score is consistently higher than the district and state scores. 52% of the teachers have advanced degrees, and 53 of the 73 teachers have 11 or more years of teaching experience. The percentage of 8th grade students achieving the distinguished and proficient levels on the English language arts milestones is consistently higher than the district and state scores. The percentage of students scoring at the proficient and distinguished proficiency levels has increased over the last 4 years. McClure also faces some challenges. For the 2018-19 school year, 33% of students with disabilities had 6 or more absences compared to 26% of students without disabilities. McClure's faculty is not representative of the student population. There are not any teachers on staff who identify themselves as Hispanic or Asian. Over 16% of the student population is Hispanic, and this population has grown over the past 4 years. There is a higher percentage of students with disabilities performing at the beginning and developing learner levels than students without disabilities. Next steps. What can we do to improve student attendance? Specifically, how can we support students who have more than 15 absences? Is this impacting students' achievement levels? How can special education teachers better support classroom teachers? How can we create an action plan to help support beginning and developing learners? And a point to consider, how are student subgroups performing in other subject areas? Are there strategies ELA teachers can implement based on the success of other teachers and/or students? If you have any questions about this data overview, please let me know. And thank you for attending today's data overview of McClure's demographics focusing on 8th grade English language arts milestone scores.